Hello and welcome to The Binge Thinker. On today's episode, I have a good new friend of mine, fellow comedian, producer, and space cadet. Welcome, Eddie Duffield.
How are you, mate?
I'm great, mate.
Yeah?
I'm really good. Like, just for context, people of the pod, the Binges, we've had a good hour-long chat that's just disappeared.
Yeah, I
And
didn't
we've-
even realize it'd been an hour.
Yeah, neither had I. And
yeah.
I started to sort of coin on, but I was like, all right, let's hone this back in.
Yeah, it was funny because you were like, yeah, we'll just have a quick chat and then I'll do the intro and shit. And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, that quick chat just turned into like an hour and 10 minutes.
Basically an entire pod on itself.
Yeah, it was
So-
a good chat, though. That was fun. That was really fun.
No, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, time flies.
Yeah.
And it was really good. I mean, yeah, we've really just gotten to know each other. We've always, I guess, for people at home, we don't really know each other too well.
No, not at
We've
all.
only been in the similar circle for a bit of time.
I did Jambo. That's, I think, one of the few times we've actually met. And even then,
Yeah.
I was kind of a bit of a nervous wreck before going on. So I'm no good before I go on stage.
Yeah,
Afterwards, I'm fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's a bit nervous. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just part of the nature of being a comedian.
Mm.
But we've certainly got a lot of alignments about people we look up to, our habits in life, even our own paths. And today's episode is really talking about probably sharing notes on our own plant medicine journeys.
Yeah, cool. I'm down.
But yeah, for the people at home and even for myself, like I've learned to get to know you in the last hour.
Yeah.
But give the people at home a bit of background on yourself, your journey to date.
I'm just a bloody good Aussie bloke. Yeah, I guess I'm pretty reasonably new to the comedy kind of thing. I started doing it in 2019, and then COVID happened. I entered Raw. That was kind of my big intro. Raw is like a big comedy contest here, and did pretty well. And so decided if I can do well off that, I should keep going. Then COVID happened and lost a lot of comedy momentum, and just recently I've kind of decided to pare back a lot of the other, sort of more soulless jobs I was doing and just focusing on those things that bring me joy. I guess if we were talking from a plant medicine and all of those kind of healing journeys, I'm really blessed to have spent 7 years, six and a bit, almost 7 years. I mean, there was a couple of times I would come back to Australia for a few months when I needed money and stuff, but spend a bit of time over there. And just that path in South America eventually took me to enjoying and being able to sit with a whole multitude of different plant medicines. And from there, it's been a really great tool and healer for me. And yeah, I've just, it's just been a really great process of learning and discovering for me. I find them to be a great ally. Yeah.
Absolutely. A major tool in the arsenal to get past your ego, really access that subconscious, that trauma, all of that, old programming for sure.
Yeah.
And, I love that idea. I love that it's coming to the forefront. Even some of the most prominent minds we've talked about, people like Tim Ferriss and things like
Everyone, Aubrey
Dennis
Marcus.
McKenna and all these sorts of things are coming to the
absolutely.
forefront. All these investment in psychedelic medicine. I saw a post today that they're expecting the psychedelic medicine market to be worth close to $7 billion in the next 5 years.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of potential in here for the future of mental health.
That makes me very happy to know, but also a little bit dubious and a little bit nervous. I do get worried when you start attaching big money figures to something like this, especially like a lot of my I smoked a lot of pot, right? Many can argue that marijuana is now being recognized as a medicine. When I was a kid, it sure as fuck wasn't.
No.
But also, like, I've done magic mushrooms a lot when I was a kid. Not a lot, but enough. I've done acid and LSD and even like ketamine and MDMA. I mean, all of those things are great healers if you use them with the right intention.
100%.
But it wasn't until I was in South America and I started to sit with ayahuasca that I realized the healing potential of these things. I used to do them a lot for just consumption. Even going to do ayahuasca for the first time, I was going to do a drug. I didn't realize it was a medicine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd kind of heard about it around the traps. You're traveling through South America. I would 100% say, and I didn't know what ayahuasca was when I went over there.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, I guess it's an ancient vine. It's a vine from the Amazon. There's a lot of different lineages that use it. It's in Colombia, it's in Peru, it's in Bolivia, it's in Brazil. But, it's a brew that's made by using this ayahuasca vine, which is I'm going to butcher this, MAOI inhibitor.
Right.
And you mix it with a DMT plant. So generally chacruna is a big one that they use to mix with it. So basically what the ayahuasca does is it allows you to be able to orally consume DMT, which is a highly powerful psychedelic, but funnily enough is also a chemical that we produce in our own brains.
Yep.
That a lot of animals produce in their own brains.
Yep, we produce in the back of our heads.
In the pineal gland.
Yep, that's right.
Which is shaped like a pine cone. Right? That's why it's called the pineal gland.
Yeah.
And like if you look at Buddhism and stuff, the big gold Buddhas, they all have pine cones on their head. Excessive meditation leads to enlightenment.
Yep.
It's kind of the enlightenment gland. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, particularly when I do meditations that are focused on energy centers, we were talking about Joe Dispenza before.
Of course.
The focus of that back of your head is that activation of the pineal gland by putting your attention and energy focus into that.
100%.
And that's actually one of my when I do that sort of energy-based meditations, the Blessings of the Energy Centers is one of his programs.
I know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get surges.
Oh, yeah.
Through the back of my head. And, I've got this symbolism of, my symbol is a wizard's hat.
Okay.
Because for me, I think that's the basis of where my alchemy journey comes from.
Yeah.
And be able to create magic from this idea that I'm activating something that gives something purposeful.
Yeah.
And there is a magic to that.
I'm into that. I can see, for starters, I could see you with a nice fancy wizard hat on.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you'd look sick in a wizard hat. You should.
Oh, man, I got some fucking cool
I
trippy
bet
shit
you got
down.
some belters.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. My cousins call me Jameel Rahman the Shaman.
Yeah, right.
Because I've taken people through plant journeys in the past, people that have been uninitiated and things like that, even particularly with weed as well.
Yeah.
So, like, I've really gotten into the more, eccentric parts of science, but are becoming more and more to the forefront as things sort of, congeal and become singular.
Yeah, I love
knowledges.
it. So I guess my plant medicine journey started ayahuasca-wise. A couple of people had told me about it when I was traveling through. I have a really close friend of mine, a man that I really, really value and respect a lot. His name's Cole. I think he's like in his early 40s kind of by now, but when he was 18, he left Canada to go and get his yoga teacher training. I only say that because like that was probably a time when, especially men, but like just in general, yoga wasn't what it is now. You know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of people that were getting the call to go to India and become a yogi.
No, it wasn't until white people discovered yoga
exactly.
in the late 1990s that yoga became a thing.
Yeah, exactly. But so he had that calling and he went to India and got his. And I think I want to say that he was the first person to tell me about it and to tell me to go and try it. And he was like, yeah, it's a really powerful psychedelic. And I was like, wow, like I'm going to go do that. And so, if there's a drug that's out there, that's what was me back in those days. I was mid-20s. Yeah. If there's a drug that's out there, I'm in. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'll try it. I'll try anything twice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, it's this really powerful medicine and it has to be treated with respect and all of that stuff. And I was like, okay, buddy, don't tell me how to do my drugs.
I'm 23. I don't know what the fuck is going on in life.
Exactly, mate. Yeah, exactly. I've eaten fucking ecstasy in the early 2000s, all right, buddy?
I know what a pink Mitsubishi is, brother.
Yeah, exactly. I've eaten the spoils of Carl Williams, all right? Like, which, again, like, shout out Carl Williams, because that was some great ecstasy back in those days.
He was a man of culture. He certainly brought Australian culture to the forefront.
Yeah. I mean, and those were, looking back now, I mean, I had some real powerful sessions on ecstasy. I know it sounds kind of dumb, but it's a powerful drug.
It is, and I mean, it's still predominantly MDMA based anyway.
Yeah.
Like
the come downs were awful, but at the time, you're talking to somebody in the Revolver smoking section, you realize you love that guy. You wake up the next morning, you realize
you don't even know what a food truck is, but you want to start one.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Not back in those days, but he had a packet of fucking Dunhill Blues and a lighter. And
oh, God. Dunhill Blues.
And you guys were best mates, you know? But yeah, so I guess that was how my journey started. I was running a tour company at the time in Peru, and I would take groups of predominantly like 20 to 27-year-olds on trips to Peru. Before that, it was Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, working for a really good friend of mine, making some amazing friendships, and I had some time off from that. So I thought, fuck it, I'm going to go and do ayahuasca. I'm going to go and try this out.
Yep.
And, I mean, we may as well get right into it. The way I got stuck into that, I was traveling with a really good friend of mine at the time. We were both smoking a lot of pot, abusing weed, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
He was going through a tough time, and we were going to do ayahuasca together. And one of the things about ayahuasca is you really have to do your dieta, so a diet.
Yeah.
You have to remove, especially weed is a really big one to remove
Wow.
from your diet before you go and do ayahuasca.
Yep.
Or the way one shaman described it to me is like, to them, every plant has a spirit in it, right? Every plant has some kind of spirit, and every plants are a healer, food is a medicine.
Yeah.
So he described it to me like you've got marijuana is like a possessive ex-girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Right.
She'll keep you home. She'll keep you satisfied. She'll keep you lazy.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want you hanging out with the other plant spirits.
Wow.
You know? So
what do they really think about marijuana?
that's what this one particular guy told me. Yeah, I couldn't say universally what they think about it, but that's what one guy did. And I think that's true. I think that, like, I always had a very abusive relationship with marijuana. So I never treated it like a medicine. I treated it like something to switch me off.
Yep.
It can do anything when you put intention into it. We were talking about that earlier.
100%. So
when I went there to the Amazon with my mate, we were getting ready. He was going through a very tough time. His dad was very sick.
yeah.
He was dealing with a lot of his own trauma at the time, and it was very hard for me and him to get into the mode of getting ready to do ayahuasca and getting into the diet. No red meat, no pork, no salt, no chili, no sex or masturbation, no spices of any kind, no turmeric, no ginger, because these are all plants with spirits in them, right? So you don't want to be inviting that into your body. You want to be clearing your body out. So like a really strict dieta in the Amazon is like just yucca, which is like a root, kind of like a
very tough,
disgusting potato.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. That's all they eat. But nowadays, I mean, look, this medicine is 40, 50, 100,000. Who knows how old it is, right? So there wasn't as much stuff available.
Yeah.
But generally, you want to be eating chicken or fish. In the Amazon, they only eat a fish that doesn't eat any other fish. I don't know what the significance of that is, but it's like one type of fish that they generally eat.
Yeah, so you're not supposed to eat predator fish.
Yeah.
Because the accumulation of mercury and other toxins from the fish accumulates in the predator itself. So like through my fitness coach, he says, don't eat shark, don't eat flake.
Okay.
Don't eat any
What about snapper?
I don't think it eats that many other fish.
Cool.
But like any top predator.
Interesting.
Try not to eat them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Mm.
That's really cool. Anyway, so yeah, it's just generally you're just kind of eating fish and salads. Pretty basic.
Yeah.
No overly bruised bananas or avocados. I always found to be a weird one. Don't know what that is about.
Oxidation?
Don't know. So anyway, me and my mate, we're over there. He can't stop smoking pot. If there's pot around me, and I'm not saying I could either. I wasn't an angel with it either. But if there's pot around me, I'll do it.
Yep.
When you get to Iquitos, which is a city in the Amazon jungle, it's the biggest city in the world that's not reachable by road.
Wow.
And it's massive, but you can only get there up the Amazon River or fly.
Cool.
And it's bizarre because, Jameel, it's like full of tuk-tuks, right?
Yeah.
And all these tuk-tuks like buzz like the mosquitoes of the jungle. It's kind of weird.
Right.
You're in this city and it's just a city. Like it's not skyscrapers and stuff, but it's a city.
Yeah.
But it sounds and feels like a jungle. And then you can go to these markets there and it's like, mate, it's some Indiana Jones shit. Monkeys in cages, monkey brains, turtles with their shells chopped off, penises of exotic animals, different potions, different witches, like different plant medicines, all of this stuff. It's a weird, wild place. But it's also got this ayahuasca tourism thing running through it. So a lot of people will go there to do ayahuasca what the result of that is you have a lot of people, oh, you want ayahuasca? You want ayahuasca? Kind of like when you're in Thailand or something.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, ping pong show.
Yeah, exactly.
They commodified it. And
Exactly.
They don't respect the spirit of it.
And ayahuasca ain't no ping pong show, baby. It's the universe's ping pong show. You know what I'm saying?
You will be the ping pong ball.
100%. You are the ping pong ball.
You are getting shoot up
You're
and
getting
spat
out of somebody's pussy over and over again.
It's God.
And yeah, exactly. Out of God's puss. Yeah. An asshole. And so anyway, I bump into this guy one day, English guy, Freddie. He ran a hostel over there. And he's like, you want to do some fucking ayahuasca and that? And I like, mate, when I went over there, I was kind of expecting to meet like a really tiny little person with like shrunken heads around their neck and stuff like that. Very like white person ideal of how it's going to go.
You want to meet the mask from Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be sick.
Be
but instead, I'm meeting a chav with like, tats and white as fucking. But he was a legend. He was a good, beautiful man, good friend of mine.
Yep.
Now, but at the time, he just pulled up in front of us on a motor scooter. And we were leaving the day after next. He's like, you guys want to come do some ayahuasca? I was like, I can't. We haven't done dieta. We're not really ready and we're flying out in 2 days. It requires like a good couple of weeks of prep.
Yep.
He was like, okay, well, what if you came and smoked some DMT with my mate?
Yep.
I've got a friend, he'll take you, he'll do some DMT. I was like, all right, we'll be there tomorrow. He's like, you don't have to diet, you don't have to do anything. You just prep. Because that's the thing about DMT, which is the chemical compound that's mixed with the ayahuasca vine. When you smoke it, it'll get you really, really, really blasted.
Yeah.
But it's very short, 10, 15 minutes. They call it the businessman's trip. But it's so powerfully psychedelic that sometimes, most of the time, you can't really make heads or tails of what's been going on.
Yeah.
You're just kind of rocketing around.
It's like a billboard instead of it being a message.
100%. Yeah, that you're driving past on the freeway at 180 miles an hour and you're like, what did that say? And you're like, I think it said something about, your life when childhood. Oh, fuck it. Ayahuasca, when you add the ayahuasca vine, it allows you to process it in your guts so you can have like 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours sitting in this space. So we go to this hostel. This guy, Ian, rocks up. Yeah, let me tell you, mate. When I went to the Amazon, I wasn't expecting to sit with a shaman named Ian. He was fucking 7 foot, bald, used to be a DJ for the Prodigy, but everybody from fucking over there used to DJ for the Prodigy.
Yeah.
DMT spirit molecule tattooed on his neck. And he's like, you want to do some fucking DMT in that, And I was like, oh, what can I expect? He's like, full ego death. I'll rip your ego out your chest, he kept saying to me. And I was like, fuck.
You sound like a character from a fucking Guy Ritchie film.
Bro, this guy was a character.
Yeah.
Character. Full Guy Ritchie. I'll rip your ego out your chest, he kept saying. I was like, that sounds fucking terrifying. I'm in. So we go with him in this tuk-tuk, 2 tuk-tuks, and we go out to this house in the middle of nowhere. And he sets us up with this DMT, right? And he's a DMT shaman. But by the same account, like, I'm looking to go, and I was thinking I'm going to be sitting with a little Peruvian lady with a bone through her nose and shit.
Yeah.
This guy's biting the filters off Marlboro Red, smoking them down to the butt. Drinking Inca Cola, which is their version of Coca-Cola, but it's bright yellow. Liters of it.
Right.
Liters of it.
Ugh.
Yeah. He's done intravenous DMT 2,000 times straight into the main vein. Smoked it more times than he could remember. I mean, this guy's tapped.
Wow.
Right? Made his own MDMA, made everything over there. This guy was like a...
Man, he's like the Heisenberg of fucking
He was,
South America.
of psychedelics.
Right.
Big love for this guy too, you know. He's on his own journey. He's on his own path.
Yeah, he's a fucking full shaman, bro.
Fucking blew my head off, right? So we go there. We go to this fucking house in the middle. We're still in the city. His housemate is like a fucking 6 foot German dude, hair down the back of his ass, covered head to toe in tribal tats with his cock out. His cock's tattooed, right? The whole bit. I'm like, this isn't what I was expecting was going to happen,
Yeah.
I'm like, am I walking into like a Berlin gangbang here?
Yeah,
Am
is
I
this
gonna
like the price of what the DMT is?
Yeah, am I going to smoke some DMT and get raped? Like, what's the plan?
Smoke some fucking tattooed dick.
Yeah. I'm going to smoke some DMT, wake up with a tattooed dick in my mouth, Like, that's what I thought was going on. Anyways, me, my mate, 2 other people. And the 2 other people, one of them was from New York and the other one was from Australia. And this guy from Australia had a tie-dye T-shirt on, fisherman pants. He looked like he had bought a bracelet off every single person that had ever passed that was selling bracelets on the street. I'm not kidding you, Jameel. He had all this arm. He had a geology museum around his neck, just rocks and crystals and stones, 50 of them.
Right, like Mr. T, but for just fucking
for
trinkets and shit.
Burning Man Mr. T.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
And he had a whiteboard around his chest, right? Because he'd taken a vow of silence through the ayahuasca.
Fuck.
But bro, I don't know if you know how vow of silences work. You don't wear a whiteboard around your chest, man.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be communicating at all.
Hey, I beat your mother spirit.
Yeah,
Fucking,
exactly.
You didn't
So this guy would be writing shit to me like, and he would hold it up. I saw that plant in a dream. And I'd be like, all right, cool, brother. Like, was it a good dream? Yes. I'd be like, all right, rock on. He's on a vow. It's like, where are you from? Melbourne. Me too. You ever been to Terra Madre? Yeah. Like, this guy's not on a vow of silence, right? He's just fucking...
He's having a yarn.
Tripper. Yeah, he's having a chat. Daniel goes in first, the guy from New York. He's like an orgasm that went for 15 minutes. He goes into this room. Ian's singing these chants, these songs. Wild. I was supposed to go last. Daniel goes in. You hear silence, and then you just hear, like he's on a roller coaster
Fuck.
of jizz, like he's on that jizz coaster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's coming hard. Old mate is next, Aussie guy. Hasn't said a word.
Right.
He's coming in. They're on they've escaped from, they were volunteering at this big ayahuasca temple called the Temple of the Way of Light. So they didn't even know, the people at the Temple of the Way of Light didn't even know that these guys had escaped for the day to go and do DMT. It's very weird. Temple of the Way of Light's for like $5,000 for 10 days.
Yeah.
The guy who owns it drives like a Lamborghini in California. Like the guy's minted, right?
It's like Soltara, the Soltara Healing Center.
Yeah, but I know the people that do Soltara. I think they've got better. I don't know. I can't say if this guy has bad intentions, but I know there was even a shortage of ayahuasca because the Temple of the Way of Light was buying it all up. It was 7 years to grow just enough for the vine to make it work, right?
It's like the quinoa of fucking
100%.
Yeah.
And it was just there was 3 different types of it, and one type had been completely decimated by this temple at the time. Don't fucking sue me for this, you dogs. Anyway, so silent retreat guy.
Yeah.
He's on silent retreat, very strict dieta, all of this stuff. He hasn't said a word. He goes in. I hear Ian talking him through the whole process, and he's fucking, and he smokes it. Mate, this guy is talking up a storm all of a sudden. He's fucking, and he comes out of the ceremony. And he's just fucking, oh my God, I fucking saw that. Fucking the whiteboard is like out the window. He's chatting up. And so I was meant to go last. And my mate says to me, do you mind if I go before you? Because by now the fear's in. That's right. Daniel had said to us, I was like, what was it like? To Daniel, he's like, it was amazing. I witnessed every time my physical body has died throughout every generation of my lineage, and I watched it go into the ground and rot and be taken over by mushrooms and trees and grow back into the earth, and then I would watch my next iteration come into the soul, into the flesh, and then I would watch that flesh die, and I would watch it, and he's like, it was beautiful, and I'm like, that sounds fucked.
This is your early 20s talking.
Yeah, bro. And like I said, all I was going to do was a drug. I didn't know, right? That was his process. That was whatever. A big thing that comes from DMT and ayahuasca and even magic mushrooms and stuff is removing the fear of death, right?
Yeah.
So whatever that was, maybe that was his process to get rid of his fear of death.
Yeah.
Old mate goes in, whiteboard, he freaks out. My mate says to me, do you mind if I go next? So I was meant to go second last. He was going to go last. Sorry, I keep saying I was meant to go last. I was like, all right, I'll go last. I was the only one that had smoked DMT before, but never ceremoniously. Always drunk. Somebody's whipped it out. We smoked it in a bong. You've tripped out a bit. Yeah. But never properly. Always in someone's garage. You know what I mean?
On a couch.
Yeah. Exactly. Not with a 7-foot Manchester shaman named Ian. So Rory, my mate, goes in and he starts kicking off. He's having a tough time in there. I can hear that he's kind of being restrained, kind of almost, right?
Yeah.
And eventually there's so much commotion that the door like swings open and he's on all fours like that dog in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And he looks me in the eye. He's just come out of it and he's like, Ed? And I'm like, you all right, mate? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. Just need a minute. And close the door. He comes out. He tells me about his experience. I'm like, whoa, intense. It was intense. I'm not going to tell you because it's his personal experience and he's a good mate of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I go in, bliss. I'm having a great. Ian's like, he's lighting this big pipe, right? And you got to get one. And he's like, can you get another one? Can you get another one? You go 3. You're meant to hold it in your lungs. And as soon as you start exhaling, you going in. And I'm talking about like you're blasting off into another dimension. He's like, can you get a 4th in? In my head, I'm like, man, I'm an old school bong head. Oh, fucking yeah. Pack her down. So I go the 4th. No, what's this? Nothing. I blow out. I follow the smoke and my ego, everything came with it. I wasn't Eddie Duffield anymore. I was nothing. I was one with the entire universe. And I'm like interacting with all of these different like beings and all of these stuff. And they're all whispering to me and telling me all these like secrets of the universe. But like I said before, it's 15 minutes. It's so fleeting. You can't really make out what's going on. But one thing that came through immediately clear to me when I came out of it was I've got to stay. Don't leave the jungle. You've got to stay and you've got to go deep into the jungle. You've only just arrived in the Amazon. You haven't seen anybody. Pretty much I came out, I said straight to my mate right away, you got to go. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, we're taking a taxi back. And I was like, no, you fly out tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm staying. I had a flight booked with him. We were meant to be going and doing something else. I was like, I love you, but this is my journey I'm on, right?
Yeah.
So he left. I stayed. I went with Freddie, the original guy that I met, and I started staying at his hostel, and I started prepping myself to really do ayahuasca. So that meant no chuff, no drinking. I went on a 3-day water fast, a 5-day juice detox. I like really started prepping my body to get rid of this and to get ready for this and get rid of all the shit. Before I knew it, I've rented a tambor, which is like a little hut I'm in the middle of the Amazon jungle, 3 hours upriver from Mikitos, 2 hours walk from the nearest town is just a hut.
And you're just
and
out.
I'm in there on my own, right? And I would walk into town and I would drink ayahuasca with different shamans every few days. And then I would walk back the next morning, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah, bro. I know. And like, I don't know how I ended up there. Even now I know how I ended up there, but it felt very much like I was getting pulled. I was getting drawn to go and do this for myself. One of my big things that came out of it was I had to learn to be comfortable with my own company.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We were speaking just before about my addictions to social media, everyone's addictions to social media and to pot and to alcohol and to all of that stuff.
Yep.
And before that, this was pre-social media being huge, but even when I was a kid, I couldn't sleep without the TV on because I didn't like sitting with my own thoughts, sitting in my own space, processing my own. I would always rather turn away from that shit. But now it was like, okay, I was in it. For some reason, something told me that I had to go and like completely isolate myself. Like I had a couple of books and that was it. And for 8 weeks, all I ate was a handful of lentils, a handful of green plantains. I would boil those and then I would have 2 chopped up tomatoes, 1 grated carrot and a half an avocado. And I'd do that twice a day. And that's all I ate for 8 weeks.
Fuck.
That was because I was in dieta mode. And then I would walk out and I would go and I would drink ayahuasca with different shamans. And then I would come back to my little hut in the jungle.
So you're drawn to this purge, right?
Yeah, for sure. You purge a lot.
Well, I mean, yeah, the purge is a natural part of the process. I mean, so over this, how long is this period of time? Like, and the intensity of this, because you can't, like, the difference between what we said, a DMT trip versus an ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah.
Are you integrating? What's the gap between both? Like, are you just pouring out inner knowings, inner messages?
The first 2 times, nothing happened with ayahuasca. Nothing serious. No huge insights, no huge anything. But I also, like, you bring your intention into it, right?
Yeah.
My intention would always be when I sit with the cup, my intention would always be like, I want to just kind of have an okay time, and I really don't want to freak out or anything, and like I just want to meet the spirit of ayahuasca, and because I think it's a grandmother spirit, and get to know her a bit maybe, and just have a chill one. So my first 2 times, that's what I got. You know what I mean? They often say like you don't always get what you want, but you always get what you need. And I think I needed a couple of light ones to start me off.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But by the time I went in for my third, because all of a sudden I've paid for 8 weeks in this hut in the jungle, right? And I'm like, mate, something better happen, or else I'm just going to be sitting out here on my own in the middle of the jungle eating lentils all day.
Yep.
Nothing to do.
Yep.
Reading books and shit. So the third one, I was like, righto, let's go. You got something to show me. I want to fucking see it. Let's go.
Yep.
And that was the big one. That was the one that really blew my heart space open. That was the one that blew my head off. So that in that space, I went very deep psychedelically, some amazing visions, amazing insight. But I also was able to, I had a sort of out of body experience where I could see myself sitting down and I could see all of my chakras lit up, all in perfect alignment.
Yep.
I had like energy and loving, healing energy in my hands. And it was kind of one of the big realizations that I got from that. And this isn't to try and sound egotistical, but it was like, I felt like I am God.
Yeah.
Right?
The Brahman.
But you are God.
We all
are, right?
Yes.
And this was a huge, because I was staunch atheist. My mum died when I was very young. And I remember we used to do religious education in school. And I remember putting my hand up in school and saying, why did my mum die, to my religious education teacher, and her saying, because God has a plan for us all. And I was like, he sounds like an absolute cunt of a bloke. You know what I mean? What a shit cunt. So I was like, but now I do believe that we all have a God in us, right? And we all have the power to love and to give and to hate and to, be vengeful and to be forgiving and all of this stuff. There is enough power in all of us to do some amazing things. We all just get drawn in different directions.
100%. I think about that a lot. And I see it like this. It's a paradox, right? The power of God in us is the power to create. Right, to create and destroy, to manifest. We are in God's image, as the Christians say. So the positive of that is God power. When you think about it, the challenge is God complex.
Yeah.
When the ego, it doesn't. When you create from a place of ego or a place of hurt, as opposed to love and creation, and for the art and for the appreciation of it, right.
And in this ayahuasca space and this plant medicine space, there is a lot of beautiful, well-intentioned healers, and there is a lot of people that are being governed and ruled by their ego.
Yeah,
it can do both. It can do both. It can help remove your ego and make you want to become a better person for the greater good of humanity, but it can also feed it, I
find that interesting, because I always feel like psychedelics are like a cut the bullshit approach to getting to your shit. I always feel a significant amount of ego death, and whenever I take psychedelics, I use them with intention now. I can't take them for fun anymore.
Yeah, same.
So I know that I'm trying to peel back whatever layers of conditioning, and they get better every time, but there's still a layer of conditioning and old wiring that I have to get past to get into, I call it debug mode, in programming, right?
Yeah.
You're getting into the coding,
and
you're trying to see what's fucking up in there. So I find that really interesting that you think it can reinforce elements of the ego in the process.
Yeah, well, I think that these shamans, so a lot of, it's been sort of taken over by a lot of Westerners and stuff, run these things. So I've met some charlatans in this space. Yeah. And I've met some beautiful, really powerful healings. I've met charlatans here in this country.
I feel like most of them in the country.
But I've also met some really beautiful, powerful healers in this country as well.
Yeah.
But when I was in Peru, I ended up, the majority of the people that I drank with were a beautiful couple. She's from Canada and he's from Pittsburgh. And they were, they were the people. It was a lot. I speak fluent Spanish, but I don't speak fluent Spanish in the, talking about my inner traumas and shit like
Yeah,
that. I can
yeah.
get a bus to wherever I want to go or order a fucking chicken dinner.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally get that.
But I can't be like, why did I have this insight into and they were really great for me. So yeah, like they're beautiful people. Shout out Pam and Brown. I love those two so much and they've been great teachers for me. Right. But there's also a lot of people that feed the ego. And another thing that happens a lot when you're over there is that you meet people that are doing ayahuasca. Oh, I've been doing it every second day for 3 years. Well,
what the fuck?
yeah. Well, when do you start to do the work, brother?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Look, one of the things that happens to me when I'm gearing up for psychedelics, sometimes it's not the trip itself that I'm really excited about. It's the week or two after. Because I find that the real insight comes afterwards. If
the
you're
integration.
100%. And how are you going to use those lessons? How are you going to work those lessons in? You know what I mean? To your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
So I think that, one of the dangers, it can become like anything else where people start to use it all the time,
Well, but we're talking about before, that's a complete lack of intention in the use. And that when you say it like that, that is interesting. And that almost within itself reinforces, a sacred intelligence.
Yeah.
Right? Like that so many, particularly we talk about like in Buddhism, for example, the answer is in plain sight. It's right in front of you. It's right in front of you because it's potentially inside of you.
Yeah.
But it can be hidden within itself by the ego, hurt, trauma, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting to know that, if it's the intention is still the key there. Because, like, I remember when I used to before I really used it with intention, I did mushrooms, I did acid a couple of times. A couple of times just tripped, but then one particular mushroom trip had a bad trip. I could feel the darkness inside. I didn't go like fucking full on like ugh.
Yeah.
But I was with my ex at the time and some of my cousins.
Yeah.
And they could sense that I wasn't great.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wasn't either. They were having fun and giggling, but I was dealing with it. And that was the burgeoning of the ego and the truth.
Yeah.
Or like past the ego through the truth, through the hurt. Because I was still an egoic individual. That's what I say. It's that level 0 of humanity is what I call when we are fully identified with the ego and our thoughts and emotions, and you don't meant to communicate, and you don't break away from that default state. And it makes me wonder if that does the same thing with these people that they, we talk about like spiritual bypassing a lot. People just go, yes, they're the airy fairy Instagram influencer chicks.
Yeah.
But they, still doing the same dumb things over and over again. They haven't really actually confronted or grown in themselves.
Yeah, well, but it's also like exactly what you're saying. Well, where's your intention lie with this thing? Like, I think what you're talking about with having a mushroom trip like that, well, what was the lessons that you got from that? It sounds like you were able to divulge some kind of lesson from it, right?
But I didn't go into it with the lesson.
Yeah.
Right? I just went into it going to have fun. When actually, you shouldn't be having fun right now, mate.
Yeah, you fucked up your setting and you didn't. Yeah, exactly. When you start doing psychedelics for fun, which I don't, mate, there's nothing wrong with sitting around with some of your mates in the woods in a nice naturey kind of place or on the beach and stuff and doing some mushrooms. Like, well, I've got a lot of friends in Canada. I've visited them a lot. Mate, I can't wait to get back there and eat some mushies in the woods. It's great. But I'm surrounded by people that I love and that I care for and that I know have my best interests at heart. I'm not saying that your cousins are any different, but if you're in a room like this and there's some fucking death metal on and the lights are flashing or
you need the
set and setting, man. 100%. I've never understood like people that are, we ate mushrooms and then we went and saw Predator. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but that must be the intention, right? If that intention is powerful enough to just be like, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of people that do fucking lots of acid and mushrooms and psychs.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't, that for fun and have not really recognized, like we're talking about now, the actual tool that it is, right? I think this concept of using psychedelics as a tool it's increasing only now. And even personally, we are at the forefront of that.
For Western culture.
For Western culture.
For them, it's always been like that.
100%. But, we can talk from this Western perspective because we're surrounded by. Like, I forgot where I was going with this. But, the idea is that everything is, all the drugs, in the psyche in the Western world now, the war on drugs, all these sorts of things, was always introduced as fun,
Yeah.
as recreation,
Yeah.
because that's in a way how you get the kids involved,
Yeah.
right? There are a lot more people that are now afraid of taking psychedelics because they are afraid to face themselves, and
Yeah.
everyone knows it to a degree how much they're not willing to face themselves.
I think that's really dangerous as well, because once you start placing that fear in, like
Yeah.
then that becomes like, if you're going into something like this, like mushrooms or ayahuasca or something, and you're worried about what's you don't want to happen, then that's where your intention starts to go.
Yeah.
Where your intention goes, your energy flows. You
Yep.
know, so yeah. If you're reading on the news that, like, I remember, like, one of the thing, some guy from 2 high schools over in a town over had acid one time, and now he thinks he's a glass of orange juice.
Yeah.
That was the story. And don't tip me over. We'd always try and work out.
Yeah.
We would always try and work out, like, what do you mean? He thinks, or somebody would take acid and try and fly and jump off a building or whatever.
Yeah.
Bro, if you're taking acid and you're getting near the side of a building and you're thinking about jumping off, like, bro,
Makes me feel
yeah, man.
physically
Man, if
uncomfortable,
I'm on
yeah.
acid, I am on my back in the grass, baby, staring
Yeah.
up at the sun.
Yeah,
You know?
I did that last time. Fucking
Yeah.
great.
There's nothing about acid that makes me want to jump off a building.
No, I want to be as grounded
wood.
as possible.
Yeah.
Because it makes you feel small sometimes.
Yeah.
And you enjoy the smallness.
And I think that, like what you were just saying before, I've had a bit of a thought about this recently, because there was a time when I was like, I don't do psychedelics for fun anymore. But I think that a sense of community is a medicine as well.
Yeah.
There's medicine in everything.
Mm.
In the cold, in the heat, in
Mm.
your breath,
Yeah.
in a hug from your mum,
Mm-hmm.
in good food, in nourishing your body, in community.
Yep.
Takes a village to raise a child.
100%.
You know what I mean? So that whole idea of, like, doing magic mushrooms for fun, laughter is an amazing medicine, and I've laughed my ass off. I think that the last time I went to Burning Man, 2019,
Yeah.
I did
Wow.
mushrooms every day for 10 days.
Fuck.
And it was sick. Just microdoses,
Yeah.
but a few microdoses until it becomes like a medium
macrodose.
macro.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
quite a macro, but yeah. And
Yeah.
then a couple of big ones, you
Yeah.
know. But I did them every day for 10 days, and you connect and you feel great, and it's beautiful, you know. But I think that, if your head is in the wrong place for these kind of things, if something comes up, people often ask me when I do ayahuasca, have you ever had a bad trip? And I always say I've had hard trips.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Challenges.
Real challenges.
Yeah.
Where I'm, like, facing some part of myself or some trauma that I've dealt with in my life, and I'm being forced to really look at it in the eyes and strip everything away from it and say, well, what does this mean, and how did this affect me? How did this turn me into the person that I am today? I'm going to tell a pretty sort of, this is a story I tell a lot about when I'm doing ayahuasca, that I tell a lot of people. It's a pretty sort of rudimentary, nowhere near as deep as I've been with some stuff, but it's a good one for me. I'm going to share it with you if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
When I was in that third ceremony, when everything really blew up, a big part of my intention was kind of self-love and confidence. You know what I mean? I'm a pretty confident dude, but it can waver a lot.
Yep.
Self-love and confidence was a big part of my intention in this ceremony. When I was in year 7, I had a thing that happened to me where there was a girl that I had a crush on, and I was on the school oval with all of my mates, and she was on the school oval with all of her mates, and she, like, teased me, oh, you're ugly, you got fucked up teeth, you're all of this shit.
Yeah.
To the point where I, like, ran away crying in front of all my mates and in front of all her mates, and, like, ran off to the bathroom and was really upset, you know. Now, like, I know enough about the male-female dynamic. She actually had a crush on me. It was like she was negging me out, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But, like,
yeah.
I was too young to realize that at the time, and, like, I couldn't make heads or tails of that. Anyway, in this ayahuasca ceremony, I'm going through this really fucking intense visuals, sitting up, the shamans are singing, I've got my back against the wall, and then all of a sudden, boom, like that. I've got my eyes closed, and I'm standing on my school oval looking at myself as a year 7 little boy
Yep.
and looking at her as a little girl and all of my friends that are still my friends today that I've known for years now, you
Yeah.
know, that were friends. I started high school when I was quite young. So I would have been 11 years old, 12 years old.
Mhm.
And they would have all been 12 years old. And I can see these men who are men now that at this time I was friends with when I was 29, when they were little boys again, you
Yeah.
know, and all of these girls. And I watched this whole scenario play out as a third person.
Mm.
I wasn't watching it through my eyes. I was watching me experiencing this thing. But I like kind of in a dream. You know when you're in a dream and you meet like Bette Midler, but it's your mum, and you don't like, and nobody else to explain that to you. But
Yeah.
it's just like that's that's the deal.
Yeah, yeah. It's
You
like,
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I've been exploring this. Carl Jung and the Anima. Which
Yeah,
is like
right.
a female representation of a message in your life and your dreams.
Yeah, exactly. So or you can meet a fucking an ice cream man, but he's actually your uncle. You
Yeah.
know, like it's sort of like that. But this was me, and this was this girl, and I was the third person. I had no attachment to me. I knew it was me, but I was watching it as a third person. I was watching this sort of traumatic event play out for myself in front of myself.
Yep.
This is a story I would never have talked about, never told anybody about. But as I grew up, when I would have interactions with girls, when I'd get rejected by somebody, when I would get broken up with, whatever, that would be one of those tense, anxious memories that would come back into my
Yeah.
headspace. I
Deep
wouldn't
trauma.
talk about it with anybody, ever.
Yeah.
Definitely not on a podcast like this. But I was able to sit and I was able to watch that interaction take place. And I was able to watch me run away crying.
Yeah.
And I was able to think, oh, that little boy, no wonder he feels like that as an older man sometimes.
Yeah.
No wonder he feels not worthy. No wonder he feels embarrassed. No wonder he feels all of these emotions. You know what I mean? It was strip back all of these emotions. And then I picked up my bucket, blah, and I just spewed that energy that I'd been carrying around since 11, 12-year-old boy. It was like a big, fat, black slug, and it just came from my guts. It had been building the whole time I was watching this memory, and by that stage, it was up in my throat, and then blah, like one go, blah, it was just out of me.
Wow.
And the ayahuasca was like, you see, you don't need that. That memory doesn't serve you anymore. So let's fuck that off. You know,
that's amazing.
it's wild shit, man.
Yeah.
So that purge, that purgative experience, because you vomit a lot. A lot of people talk about, oh, do you vomit?
You piss and you shit yourself and things like that.
You never piss yourself. I've never pissed myself. I did it pretty recently, and I did a fucking big poo though, and it was brutal because I was really tripping, and I had to get up and take myself to the toilet and sit in the toilet and poo. You know, I've never pooed during an ayahuasca ceremony either, but in this one, that was the way that the purge was coming.
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of messages that you haven't been honoring your gut, you haven't been taking care of your gut. I'm in here, I'm cleaning some shit out.
Yeah.
It's not coming up this way, it's going out the back end. And I was fucking tripping balls. But this is the other thing, right, about ayahuasca. You're not, from my personal experience, I've never been in a situation where I couldn't get up and take myself to the toilet, even when the visions are so intense and there's snakes and panthers and colors and geometric shapes and stuff, and you're fucking flying through other dimensions. Fuck, I need a shit. I can get up, I can take myself to the toilet.
Yeah.
Right? So there's definitely that. But the vomiting process is clearing of traumatic energy.
Yeah.
It's clearing things from your body that you've been holding on to for too long. And one of the other things I've realized in a lot of ceremony, you take on energy from every interaction that you have.
Yeah.
Can fill your cup or it can drain it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so if you look at every relationship, every interaction, every hardship, every win, everything is a lesson. Everything is a lesson.
Yep.
But sometimes there's people that come into your life that are energy vampires and they shift their shit onto you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. Sometimes that's their own trauma. That's their trauma response is to shift it back onto you.
Yep.
And you've got to process that. And that's where a lot of that purging and a lot of that stuff that people get nervous about from Aya, that's what that is, I believe, is purging out the energy. It's an energetic cleanse.
I 100% agree with that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But, every time I've had that in small amounts just through processing my own traumas in day-to-day life and not using it through peak experiences. Like literally this week, got a little high, smoked a bit, And I like to just meander sometimes. I'll go out for a walk and things like that. And a lot of stuff that I'm processing right now is feminine wounds,
Mm,
from my mother, from childhood, from my mum, emotionally absent mother. I've got a lot of issues with connecting with the feminine.
mm,
And in previous times, I literally felt this block in my throat come up whilst I was thinking about it, and the
mm.
pain, and it shifted from my heart to my throat, and I was struggling to like talk and get this out of me. And I'm like, fuck, I know what this is.
Yeah,
There is something here.
yeah.
Let's think about this. Let's process this. So I have these purges in while I'm processing my own trauma,
Mm,
not through peak experiences like ayahuasca or
yeah,
psychedelics. It's more of a self-analysis tool.
yeah.
But I have felt many emotional purges that have manifested in physical sensations in my body
Interesting.
many times.
Well, a lot of sickness and a lot of pain and a lot of everything comes from that.
Yeah,
Even like sometimes I notice that my hip flexors get incredibly tight, especially when I'm going through like relationship stress, emotional stress.
Yep.
I know for a fact that I carry a lot of tension in my hips.
Mm.
You know, I had an ex-girlfriend that she carried a lot of her tension in her neck. Her neck was always, when she was stressed,
Yep.
her neck was stressed.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You can, again, your body carries its energy in different ways.
The body keeps the score. It's a
Yeah,
very, very good book.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's even with Gabor Mate stuff, right?
Oh man, he's a legend.
Yeah, fantastic. I still gotta get through that book, but yeah, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the pod. The Wisdom of Trauma.
Yeah.
Great movie. Watch
Yeah.
that. Again, it's really nothing that you haven't known already, but it's
Yeah.
just the nature of addiction. Just literally, the nature of addiction is constantly trying to patch psychological wounds we haven't addressed, or the
Yeah.
hasn't addressed, and that's why we go through these things.
Yeah, well,
Right.
I'm reading the Scattered Minds at the moment, which is his book on ADHD.
Right.
But like, I'm also reading 7 other books because I got ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he is really he's fantastic. He's really really good. I'm really into that. Fuck, I had something I wanted to talk to you about, but it's
While you're
lost from me
pondering,
at
just
the
gonna
moment.
check time.
Yeah, sure.
So one of the things I was curious about though was, you told me you're doing Aya in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought I want to. I haven't done it yet. I will do it at some point. I want to go legit. I do want to go to somewhere like Soltara. I want to go to deal with Shippo and have the authentic experience.
Yeah.
I think of like backyard bathtub ayahuasca. you telling me you're doing this stuff because
Yeah.
I did Pradeepa's podcast and she was telling me that she cooks it as well. And I think you did it with Dan or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, so what's the difference in experience here versus, the legit stuff back in the motherland?
It's interesting. I won't go too deep into, like, me and you personally will go deep into the details of like how I ended up finding these people and how I ended up doing it.
Don't reveal
Of course,
the fucking
but
intimate stuff, but
what's really interesting about it is trying to integrate back into society afterwards. Because I'm used to doing it in that kind of setting where, like, you do it over there and then you're in the jungle for 4 or 5 days afterwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because even your dieta, once you've done Aya, you keep your dieta going for like another week.
Yep.
At least, because you're trying to process all of that stuff, right? You're trying to work through, they say, 6 years of therapy in 6 hours. But like, even when I went and did it not that long ago, all of a sudden I'm like I'm leaving the place, beautiful setting, amazing nature everywhere and shit like that.
Yeah.
Driving down a country road, I'm blissed out, man. I'm feeling amazing.
Great.
Then I get on the Hume Highway, some cunt cuts me off. I'm like, fuck you. What do you fucking indicate, you dog?
Yeah.
And like, man, it was like, I'm talking about I was 7.5 kilometers from like where I'd just been. And like, I was out of that zen so quickly, dude. It was like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So I will say that if there is an opportunity with the right type of people to do it here, it is 100% worth it. Because going to Peru, going to Soltara, getting all of that shit together, it can be hard and it's an ordeal and you got to get over there and you got to get the time off and fuck me in the ass. I'm fucking, my flight got cancelled and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But if you can do it here in Melbourne or in Blue Mountains or wherever you end up doing it,
Yeah.
when I do get the chance to do it again, it will be, I'm going to get an Airbnb for a few days afterwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
integration.
I need to be able to see. I live in the city. I live in an apartment, not in the city. I live in Northcote. I live in an apartment in Northcote.
Yeah.
Trams going by, cars honking.
Yeah.
people fucking talking to themselves on the street and yelling at telephone poles and
Yeah.
shit like that. It's hard to like reintegrate.
Mm.
It's a lot of work, and you definitely lose that vibe a lot quicker. Like I was saying to you just before, like sometimes it's the week after I look forward to the most, not the actual journey itself, but the time afterwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And in that, I definitely feel like you do get robbed of that a little bit when you do it here. It's
Sure.
worth doing if you can do it here with the right people, and the right people is so, so, so important.
Yeah.
But be ready to sort of all of a sudden be stuck in traffic or having to buy your food from a Coles or go into an Aldi. You know how weird that is? Like when you're trying to like stick to your dieta, stick to your diet, put really good things in your body, and then like you're buying, well, I see Monsanto, you know, fucking modified asparagus from Costa Rica that got shipped over here 6 weeks ago is only $1.50 a bunch. I better buy some of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Farmed salmon, all of that stuff, the lights, all that shit.
The syntheticness of the Western culture.
One of the biggest, weirdest trips for me not even close to the biggest, weirdest trips, but something that was odd for me when I came home from Peru and Guatemala and South America, I used to go to markets to buy all my food, and a fucking onion, a Spanish onion, like a purple onion, it's not that shape. They're flat. They're fucking question marks.
they're
They're
all
all
over the
different
shop.
things.
Yeah.
You can't stack them. And I remember coming into Coles and every onion is like a fucking
Bulbous.
painting. It's bulbous, big old fucking fat, juicy, bussy onions. You know what I'm saying? And they're stacked like that. And every apple's got a shine to it. And every banana is fucking, there's not a bruise on them.
Yeah.
That's not what nature is.
No, it's not.
Nature is bruised and it's imperfect and it's fucking weird.
Yep.
So that is really odd to me, to come out of this and then have to go and step into like a Coles or an Aldi or something like that and see all of these vegetables that it's bizarre. It is really bizarre. And you do lose that pretty quickly, that like whole, I'm one with nature, I'm in touch with nature, because like
then you realize how disconnected from nature you really are.
we really are.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Like-
I totally agree.
Because that's the thing as well. I mean, like, I remember when I first did Aya, all I wanted was for everybody in the world to do Aya, you know? And now I realize that this isn't for everybody. Same with mushrooms, man. Same for everything.
Yeah.
Some things just aren't for you. And if you're looking to deal with some trauma or go through that stuff and having a really intense, really heavy duty psychedelic experience isn't for you, take the time to do the work on yourself. Take the time to learn to meditate, do some cold showers, do some breath work, do these other things, because you can still tap into that gland. You can still tap into that nirvana space without having to use these things. But for me personally, I like a good shortcut.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, when you said 6 hours of therapy, 6 years of therapy in 6 hours,
Yeah.
my head just went,
Yeah. I like
Really?
a cheat code, baby.
Yeah.
Give me all weapons, you know, like I'm going
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it.
IDDQD, baby.
Yeah, I like a cheat code. I like to jump forward a bit, but also like be willing to do the work afterwards as well.
Well, that's the thing. Like we talked about before, it all comes down to intention and the work, right? It's a mirror, and you need to be able to look. You need to be willing to stare into the mirror,
Yeah.
and you need to be able to pick the parts, the things that you want to change in that mirror time and time again.
Yeah.
Or else we are just caught in our trauma loops or the loops that bind us in our bullshit over and over again.
Yeah.
And
incremental changes.
yes,
Little tiny changes.
yes, no big swings.
Because there is no fix all one cure. There is no
No.
cure all for anything.
I know, and I've learned that so many times the hard way. Like I've taken testosterone and steroids in my past.
Yeah, right.
Because when I was a little fatty, I
Yeah.
wanted to take the shortcut.
Yeah.
And that caused me hormonal damage, depression. I felt, and like we were talking about before, about feeling that trauma viscerally. When I was like, I was this year I was actually diagnosed with low testosterone, and I had to naturally refill it using like supplements and all natural stuff, which is great. But I felt when I was exploring this situation, I felt the trauma of the needles going in my shoulders when I used to inject.
Wow.
right? And I felt this sensation in both my deltoids because I knew I wasn't doing it right.
Yeah.
I'm just this fucking, I'm in my mid-20s. Yeah, just like fucking spraying and
Rocky
praying.
5, Rocky 4,
yeah.
Ivan Drago.
Yeah, just spraying and praying testosterone in my fucking arms.
Wow.
And I didn't do it properly, right? I was just like, I need to get past this again. So I've taken all the bad shortcuts.
Yeah. Well, sorry to cut you off, but I had something really interesting happen to me recently where like I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was about 15, 16.
Yeah.
I was prescribed dexamphetamines. Took them, didn't really love them, ended up selling them to all the kids at my school.
Yeah.
Loved it. Then my mum caught onto that. I was off. She caught on.
That's
why have
the
you got
entrepreneur, baby. That's why you run.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Why
you
you
run
got all
shows
this
now.
money, but you're also asleep? You're meant to be on amphetamines.
Yeah.
Then just recently, 6 months ago, I was like, I got to fucking take some charge of this ADHD because I'm not getting shit done. So I saw a psychiatrist, 6-month waiting list, $480 to see this guy, 45 minutes. He had me prescribed on dexamphetamines within 15 minutes.
Yep.
And he told me, oh, you're a comedian. We'd have you winning Oscars by now if I'd had you on these 15 years ago, 20 years ago, right? He was so quick to give me this medicine. The test was like the most bullshit thing ever. Anyone could pass this test and get prescribed Dexies. It was so easy. Do you have trouble concentrating? Do you feel like your brain gets pulled in lots of different directions? Who the fuck doesn't?
Yeah.
Right? So he gave me these things and I started taking them for about a month. And yeah, I was getting shit done, but there wasn't a creative bone left in my body. I know what speed and amphetamines feel like. I was on amphetamines.
Yep.
I was so depressed. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything. Dexamphetamines definitely work for a lot of people. They work but for me, chemically, it's not for me. That's not the drug I should be taking.
Yep.
Lately, I'm meditating. I'm exercising. I'm fucking stretching. I'm reading. I'm learning how to refocus my concentration. I write big lists and I tick things off those lists. And I'm not perfect by any stretch. And I'm not saying that people should not be doing dexamphetamines or antipsychotics or antidepressants if that's what works for you. But I do think there's alternatives. And coming into my own body and being fit is huge for me because it helps me really focus. You know what I mean? It helps me if I can focus all that excessive energy
and channel
that excessive attention, like we were talking about with rock climbing or being at the gym or whatever. You've got somewhere to focus your attention. It makes the other attention moments in your life easier. Personally, I feel like that.
You know, you're just repurposing and repatriating that skill of intention and focus into every element of your life. And that's why we were talking about, I think, in the other hour, which will be next week. Maintaining that physical, spiritual, mental acuity, tuning that instrument. And I say this a lot in this podcast. You have to do that first and foremost because you bring that into every dimension and every element of your life as an individual, right? You bring a sharp mindset. You cultivate that. You bring that sharp mind into the comedian, into the producer, into the creative, into whatever it is. So that has to be paramount. You know, a healthy man wants 1,000 things. A sick man wants just one thing.
Interesting.
It's their health.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good quote. It's a really good quote. I love that.
Yes. And then look, on that note, mate, I think we have to wrap it up.
I love leaving it on a good quote.
Yeah. I'm all about the wisdom on this pod, as you haven't noticed already.
Binge
but
thinking.
Mate, fantastic to have you on.
That was great.
The great chat.
Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I'll have you back.
Yeah.
Where can the people find you?
Instagram, Eddie Kickass. I do a couple of comedy nights. I'm running On the Gags at Bod Riggy. It's a super, super fun night. Pro night on a Sunday. Great. It's so much fucking fun. And then I've just taken over running Rochi Comedy, which is a big legacy comedy. Thursday nights at the Rochi,
with
also
Isaac
really good. Yeah, with Isaac Jones, who's also a legend. And yeah, that's about it. That's where you can find me.
Perfect. Phone's ringing, mate. That's not synchronicity. I don't know what is.
I had it on Do Not Disturb the dog. All right. Well, good seeing you, brother.
Thanks, brother.
Cheers, mate.
See you, Gingers.
Peace out.
See you next week.